Madeline sat nervously in the kitchen, reminding herself to stay focused and finish her tasks. Suddenly, two nurses approached and called her name. Madeline, they cheerfully greeted her. How was your vacation? I heard the members of the Nottingham family are really impressive. Faced with this uncomfortable question, Madeline could only respond with an awkward smile and a vague answer. Ha ha ha. Yes, indeed. Except that those amazing people think of the hospital as a business above all else. Reflecting for a moment, Madeline shyly added, and the seaside in Cornwall. It was so beautiful that it made me sad to leave. The two nurses, caught off guard, smiled warmly and playfully expressed envy. One of them even mentioned planning a trip to Cornwall with her husband after she left the hospital. Seeing this, Madeline cheerfully asked, "When is your last day again, Anna?" Anna responded with a bright smile. "Next week. My final patient went home today." The three of them were chatting happily when Eric entered the room. "Madeline, could I speak to you for a moment?" he asked. Madeline looked at Eric in confusion. They went to the living room to talk, and Eric spoke first. "I'm sorry, Madeline. You had to be the subject of such unsavory talk because of me. I thought they would have changed now that the war is over." Madeline answered sympathetically, "It's all right, Eric. I should be the one to apologize." Blushing slightly, she continued, "You always get into trouble when you try to help me." Eric protested, "That's not true. I want to be good to you no matter what." Madeline looked surprised. "To me?" she asked. Eric elaborated, "Maybe it's because I am inherently flawed." "You are a noble person, Madeline. You treat those with broken bodies and hearts with such sincerity. It's more than I can even manage toward my own brother." Madeline's gaze faltered. Looking at the teacup in her hand and seeing her reflection in it, she replied, "The reason Ian is able to be strong is his family, I'm sure. That must also be why he is trying to get better. I have faith that Ian will not break down. At least, not in this lifetime," Madeline thought. Eric pondered her words deeply. "It's reassuring to hear you say that, Madeline," he said. Hearing this, Madeline encouraged Eric. "You are a wonderful brother, Eric. Please take good care of him." Eric was taken aback by the way Madeline spoke, as if she were preparing to leave. "What do you mean?" he asked. Madeline gently replied, "I will be leaving once the hospital is shut down. I've already told Ian." Eric stammered, Is it because of me? I just wanted you two to be together. I would like to apologize on behalf of my relatives," and Madeline interrupted. "It's not your fault, Eric. I want to do this for my own sake, and I will continue to exchange letters with Ian." "Madeline, please let us know where you settle down," Eric requested. This question made Madeline feel slightly uneasy. She did need to start thinking about where to go next. Should she head to London? It would be nice to study nursing further. She had saved up enough money for tuition. Plus, it was a relief that Ian seemed to be doing better. She wouldn't have to worry as much about him. It might not be the brightest future, but it seemed to be the best choice for everyone. Lost in her thoughts, Madeline didn't realize when Ian appeared before her. The two froze, staring at each other. Madeline stammered, "You didn't startle me one bit." Ian replied calmly, "Your breathing is a little labored though." Madeline, feeling flustered, quickly changed the subject. "Anyway, what brings a nobleman like you to this place?" Ian responded straightforwardly, "Well, I was wondering whether it's really necessary for the staff to do the laundry themselves." "Of course, it is," Madeline replied. "We are always short on hands. The hospital wouldn't run if we didn't help with the chores. And it's not just laundry from the hospital. We've been washing your clothes as well." Her answer hit the mark, making Ian clear his throat awkwardly. I suppose we ought to raise your salaries and hire more people," he suggested. Madeline continued her work as she responded, "There's no need for that. With the patients starting to leave, our workload will soon decrease." Noticing Ian still standing there silently observing her, Madeline couldn't take it anymore and turned to ask, "So, what is it that you want?" Ian's face turned slightly red. "Oh, well, you said your eyesight is getting worse, didn't you? There are opticians around here as well, but I thought it would be best to get you a pair of glasses somewhere more professional." "Madeline, would you like to visit London with me?" Ian spoke with a serious tone. "I know a good optician there, and I would like to get you a small gift as well, so." Hearing this, Madeline's cheeks flushed red. I'd be grateful for the recommendation, but I will pay for the glasses myself," Ian replied quickly. "Then there would be no reason for me to go with you." Madeline frowned in frustration. "What do you mean?" In Ian's eyes, she now looked like an angry little chick, adorably flustered. Could you think of it as a thank you gift for all your hard work at the hospital? The sound of leaves rustling accompanied Madelin's hesitant reply. Still, buying me a pair of glasses in London? It's all a bit sudden. Ian's response left Madelyn utterly surprised. I was meaning to visit London myself. Besides, I cannot walk around by myself in this condition. You know how harsh the city can be. The interaction between the two, full of shyness and warmth, was utterly endearing. Hearing Ian's reasoning, Madelyn thought for a moment before agreeing. Very well then, let's go together. Ian, a bit bashful, raised his hand to cover his mouth. All right, he said before sneaking a soft smile. A few days later, the train to London departed. Madelyn and Ian enjoyed tea in a luxurious carriage. She sipped her tea thoughtfully, while Ian busied himself reading reports. Stealing a glance at him, Madelyn noted how even his scar couldn't detract from his handsomeness. There was something different about Ian now, so very different from the Ian of her past life. Concerned, she spoke up. Won't you take a break while we are traveling? Working so hard isn't good for you either. Madelyn continued to gently chide him. Only 100 years ago, the nobility abhorred any sort of labor, you know. Ian responded, explaining that he wouldn't have much time once they arrived in London and that he didn't want to think about work while spending time with her. Madelyn smiled brightly at his words. Ian, just in case you didn't know, you are with me right now. Hearing this, Ian smiled and blushed slightly. Well then, how would you like us to spend our time together, Miss Madelyn Ronfield? She thought for a moment before suggesting. I don't know. How about we play a little game? Such as? Ian asked curiously. Madelyn placed her hand on his and proposed. We try to guess what the other is thinking. Let's see. Oh, I can tell straight away. You are thinking about the friends you will meet at the Gentlemen's Club in London, aren't you? Ian shook his head. Incorrect. Madelyn placed her hand on the stack of documents. Calculating the numbers in all this paperwork then? Not that either, Ian denied. Just now, I was thinking about France. When I was there, I never dared to imagine a moment like this. But now, I am thankful to have made it out alive. Hearing this, Madelyn felt a deep connection to Ian's emotions. She consoled him softly. Ian, there will be many more moments like this from now on. You will experience all kinds of joy as you continue to live your life. Her words seemed to soothe Ian's weathered soul. After their journey, they finally arrived in London. The bustling crowds at the station left Madelyn in awe. Look at all the people. It feels more crowded than before the war, she remarked. Meanwhile, the voice of a newspaper vendor rang out loudly. Fair rights for workers, suffrage for women under 30. Nearby, a security officer chased after a man. Seeing this, Madelyn instinctively positioned herself in front of Ian like a protective chick. Watch out, Ian. I'm keeping an eye on our surroundings, so don't be intimidated. Ian chuckled, amused by her reaction. I think you are the one who is intimidated right now. At that moment, a beggar approached them, holding out his hat. Could you spare a coin? You seem to be a veteran. Help out a fellow soldier, will you? He gestured toward a sign that read, Support the livelihood of veterans who risk their lives for the country. Madelyn reached for her purse to give him some money, but Ian stopped her. Step aside, he said firmly. Madelyn looked at him, puzzled. The beggar spoke again. What's wrong, sir? His eyes darted to the purse in Madelyn's hand. For another Tommy before he could finish, he lunged to grab the purse. Ian immediately stepped in front of Madelyn to shield her, his voice sharp and commanding. I said, step aside. The man snarled angrily. You damned cripple. Curse you. We're in the same boat, you know. Who do you think you are? Madelyn, now visibly upset, snapped back at the man. How could you say such a thing? The man walked away, but his bitter words still echoed. During the war, you were just another soldier, no different from me. Madelyn, however, was only concerned about Ian's mood. Are you all right, Ian? She asked. Ian turned to her, reminding her to be cautious when dealing with strangers. His unfocused gaze indicated the man had been drunk. Your reflexes were good, but... Ian started, only to be interrupted by Madelyn, who was tucking her purse into her bag. I'll need to be faster next time, she said seriously, clutching her bag tightly. She added with a firm tone, if anyone else talks like that, I'll whack them with my purse. Ian blinked in surprise before bursting into laughter. We have no need for a bodyguard, I see. Madelyn looped her arm around his and confidently said, leave it to me. After some time, they stopped by an optician's shop. The shopkeeper greeted them cheerfully. As you contacted me ahead of time, I have laid out a selection of spectacles for you. We need to test your eyesight first, so please come this way. Madelyn turned to Ian and told him to wait for a bit, assuring him she would be back soon. Why don't you look through some of those documents while you wait? She suggested. Ian sighed, feeling like she sometimes treated him like a child. Despite his thoughts, he glanced at the stack of papers nearby and found a seat to wait. After all, Madelyn would take a little while. It wouldn't hurt to see if anything caught his interest. Sometime later, Madelyn's voice called out, "What do you think?" She had already put on her new glasses and stood bashfully by the counter, looking at Ian. "Do these look all right?" she asked cheerfully. Ian was momentarily stunned by her appearance, his face flushing red as he hurriedly put away the newspaper he had been holding. "Oh," he stammered. Confused by his hesitation, Madelyn asked Ian, clearing his throat. He replied, "They suit you quite well." Madelyn examined the glasses with satisfaction, remarking, "I like these frames since they're the lightest." The others felt a bit too heavy. Before she could say more, Ian was already at the counter paying for the glasses. Madelyn froze in shock, unable to stop him in time. She insisted that she wanted to pay for them herself, but Ian paid no mind and casually settled the bill. Flustered, she grumbled about having her own money, which only seemed to amuse Ian further. The two chirped at each other like sparrows, much to the delight of the shopkeeper, who observed their lively banter with a smile. Under the setting sun, the two rode in a horse-drawn carriage, enjoying a leisurely tour of the city. Madelyn puffed her cheeks in mock frustration. "I really was going to buy them myself," Ian chuckled in response. "Then you should have been quicker." Despite her grumbling, Madelyn happily soaked in the atmosphere. "Still, I'm glad that you seem to be in good spirits. And now that I can see things clearly, the world looks all the more beautiful." "Thank you, Ian." Ian seemed shy hearing her gratitude, but Madelyn removed her glasses and added, "It seems I'm not quite used to these yet. They're making me a bit dizzy. If you don't mind." Without finishing her sentence, she rested her head on Ian's shoulder, catching him completely off guard. Ian's face turned as red as a tomato as she closed her eyes and relaxed. Overwhelmed by happiness, he thought to himself, "Blast. Tears are beginning to well up." Though I was nervous she might hear how loudly my heart was beating, even that filled me with joy. There was no cynicism whatsoever in that thought. Before long, they were enjoying dinner together at a steakhouse. Cutting into her steak, Madelyn commented, "I'm glad we came to London. The prospect had worried me, I must admit." Ian agreed, then asked, "Oh, Madelyn, did you talk to Eric before we came here?" Madelyn nodded. "Yes, I did. He asked me to send you his farewell. He is leaving the manor for a while to return to his studies." Surprised, Madelyn realized this was why Eric had said goodbye to her. Ian took a sip of wine and remarked, "The two of you seem to be quite close." Madelyn laughed and admitted that Eric had always been kind to her, but she was closer to Isabel. She mentioned how much Isabel had struggled to reach where she was now, but before she could say more, the conversation from a nearby table caught her attention. "The labor movement is gaining traction lately. This isn't good." "You're right. According to what I heard, some immature brat is funding them." Hearing this, an image of Isabel on the day she left flashed through Madelyn's mind. However, the current atmosphere was too wonderful for her to dwell on it. She reassured herself that Isabel would be fine. What will happen to Isabel? Will Madelyn and Ian find happiness together? Don't forget to like and subscribe to catch the next episode on the Revamping Manhwa channel.